Let's begin.
Hey there, scary story fanatics. Welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. No one wants to be shunned, and we all want to feel appreciated. What happens when you turn a blind eye to greatness? Well, someone more sinister may take notice. Settle yourselves by your monitor screens for a retelling you won't want to take for granted. Designed by the Thankless.
I am an author. A horror author, more specifically. Who am I? What stories have I written? Well, I'll get to that. But first, it's certainly important to note that you've likely never heard of me, or my work. For a long time, my creative projects had gone largely unnoticed. And I don't mean a short story here and there. I'm talking hundreds of stories, a few books, and even a few sparse publications. Still, no matter how much I liked the pieces I created, no matter how well I found each work to be written, none seemed to garner too much attention. That is, until the day he paid me a visit. I hadn't been expecting any visitors that late autumn day, and the chance of a passerby even being out this far into the desolate country seemed minuscule. Never mind coming upon and knocking upon my door for whatever reason. As I insinuated, I have no reason for peepholes or security cameras where I live, as this part of the countryside sees very few individuals, aside from the residents of the widely spread apart houses that dapple this remote wilderness. So, although I could not see who was on the other side of my door, due to complacency and false sensations of security, I also found the instance peculiar and out of the expected norm, causing me to cautiously ask who it was that had knocked. I heard nothing. No knocking. No response. Nothing. It was as if there never was anyone there, and I had imagined the sound, conjured it out of a playful imagination fueled by isolation. Still, I called out again. Nothing. I was relatively certain of myself and soundness of mind, so I needed to investigate closer anyway. I slowly opened the door to the sight of an empty yard, a single car in the driveway, and no lingering individuals present, underscoring the sensation of the ominous and queer. I rescanned the area again with a slightly greater impensity for detail, just to be sure. Once satisfied, I closed the door, making sure to lock it, and turned to face the foyer behind me. I was greeted by the green eyes and somewhat apathetic grin of a man that I had never seen before, standing in my house, discovered to be just behind me. I shouted out in instinctive reaction to the sudden fear that jolted through my body like an electrical charge, jumping backwards into the door that propped my form upright, that would have otherwise toppled backwards to the hardwood floor. "What the fuck? Who the hell are you and what the fuck are you doing in my house?" I shouted at the man, temporarily giving up my lingual eloquence for something a little more straightforward. "Sorry to give you such a startle, but I can assure you I'm here on business, and I mean you no harm." The man sort of hissed at me, both gentlemanly-like and somewhat sinister, not too dissimilar from an educated used car salesman. "Listen, buddy, I don't know who the hell you are or what the hell you're doing in my house, but you need to get out of here before I call the police," I demanded as I stood on my own 2 feet once more, without the door's help. I had noted that he had not moved, not taken a step towards me, and looked much more frail than I. He was tall but gaunt, dressed in a long black business coat and a bowler hat. His right hand was casually resting within his coat front pocket, but his left held a small black and gold trimmed briefcase. "I will leave once you hear what I have to say. No sooner, and trust me, you want to hear what I have to say," the man responded, confidently and matter of fact. "How in God's name did you get in here?" I asked, wanting to know and more than a little furious. How I got in isn't as important as why, and I can assure you, God had nothing to do with it. He stopped and smirked at his own answer, patiently awaiting something I realized to be my response. This guy just broke into my house, and now he wanted to have a pleasant conversation? He needed to leave, but he spoke up before I could say anything else. "I'll save you the breath. I've heard this tune time and time before. I'd like to start with why I'm here, but I know you and your kind, and you'll not hear anything I have to say until you know the how. Inquisitive little monkeys you are." He chuckled, which left me confused, until I realized he had just chuckled at his own words, as if he delivered a joke. By the time my mind had caught back up, he had continued on. "Well, sir, the how is simple. I wanted to be here, so I was. Doors, locks, your little salt circles. You humans will try anything to keep what you feel is evil at bay. But I can assure you, my intentions here today are benign. Now, sir, let's move on to the question of who. Well, I have many names, most of which have been so graciously given to me by you humans, and most of them are truly despicable. Big surprise. You can call me Satan, Devil, Old Nick, whatever suits your needs. But remember, these are names given to me by a creation that fears all it does not understand. And I can assure you, none of your little preconceptions truly encapsulate who or what I am. The man paused, almost as if waiting for me to speak, to which I thought about, but I knew he had much more to say, and would be saying it no matter if I wanted to listen or not, so I remained quiet and allowed him to finish. So, let's get to the why, shall we? The real reason I'm here. The thing you actually want to know and just don't know it yet. Well, sir, let's just say I've taken a keen interest in your work. He paused, and I took the opportunity to finally say something, though it was something of little significance. Okay, so you're the devil, huh? Well, thank you, Mr. Satan, for stopping in, but I really feel you should leave now, I said, opening the door for him, completely unbelieving in his absurd story. That's when I felt someone tap me on the shoulder from behind, from beyond the front doorway. I spun around in a startle to see who had snuck up behind me, and I was shocked to see him. What the? I muttered out as I looked back into my own home once more to find the man gone. Excuse me, sir, I really haven't the time for these parlor tricks. Can we dispense with the whole "you're not really the devil" thing? In fact, can we skip the whole "please don't kill me, please don't eat my soul" thing as well? I mean, that's what always comes next, he questioned with a glare. But, I stammered, unable to move my lips in such a way so as to formulate words, my mind still wrestling with the how he managed to teleport himself outside my house to stand behind me once I had opened the door. Was I going insane? No, No, I can assure you you're not going insane," he said, seemingly answering my thoughts. "What? What do you want?" I asked, now trembling with an intense fear and unsurety. Well, to be honest, at first, I did want to kill you. You seem to write so very well about things, particularly me. And I'm not too fond of those who write about me, not without my permission anyway, the devil began. But, to be more honest, I actually love your work. So, rather than killing you and dragging your soul to hell, blah, 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 I've got a proposition for you instead. Write for me. He grinned as he said this last part, plainly and matter-of-factly. Right? What do you want me to write about? I said, now utterly confused. Well, first things first. Maybe this time you could invite me in? Standing out here in the elements is less than optimal for polite conversation. Wouldn't you agree? He asked, and I realized that maybe my best course of action here wouldn't be to be rude to a timelessly ancient being that could possibly end me with the snap of a finger. I stood aside, allowing the devil entry to my home, and closed the door behind me. So, what do you want me to write? I asked again, still perplexed at the sequence of unfolding events. Nothing in particular. Just write. Just realize it will be specifically for me, and make sure it's good, or you can guess what will happen. He finished, his expression plain and cold. What will I began, but as I spoke, his face turned into that of a beast, the likes I had never seen, and retained elements that defy description. His eyes turned yellow, his skin blinked to the shade of necrotic blue and black, his jaw yawned open beyond the capacity of a human jaw, and his teeth grew in lengths that nearly closed the gap of the orifice entirely. I screamed out loud from the terror that had welled up within me in an instant, and in that same moment, his face reverted back to its previous shape and form. Good. I think we understand each other. He grinned, knowing that I understood all his threat implied. An eternity of endless torment. And if it's good? I had to ask. Well, then your work will be experienced by many and leave a lasting impact on their lives, he claimed. Of course, I believed this to be a terrible idea. But what choice did I have? I couldn't reason him away. I had nothing to bargain with that I could not live with losing, and whatever this thing was obviously much more powerful and capable than I was. So, I agreed. I brewed a strong pot of black coffee for the morning and retired to my study in preparation to write a story for the devil. For the most part, he left me alone. I think he stopped in once during that first writing session, only popping his head in to ask me where the bathroom was. Funny how this all-powerful deity that could cross between realms and knew nearly as much about me as I did couldn't find the bathroom. Did he even need a bathroom? Shaking my head at the absurdity of this situation, I toiled away at my keyboard until the story was finished. This was one of my best works, if I do say so myself. The character development was true and structured, the plot cohesive, and the setups nearly undetectable. Of course, my favorite part of the story is the payoff. The gore, the visceral violence, the depravity, and this one had it in spades. By the time I was done, my main character was minced meat, nothing more than a bloody heap on the floor. The point was impactful and poignant, and the mark on the reader was sure to be lasting. Once finished, I exited my study and walked down the short hall to the living room, to find the devil on my couch, enjoying a cup of coffee, and watching Jerry Springer. I don't know what's funnier, the fact that all these people are going to hell, or the fact that the rest of your kind think it's funny, he said, without even looking at me, half talking to himself, I was sure. I promptly handed him the pages that I had brought him, half hoping for a quick judgment, and half hoping one would never come at all. To my surprise, what occurred was the former, as apparently the devil is a speed reader as well. His eyes scanned over each page, but his expression told me he wasn't just skimming. His face changed to show humor, intrigue, and a sinister smile, as if he had caught every little plot point. My goodness, this is splendid. This is what I'm talking about. You, sir, are an artist, and your palette is the words you select for scripting. You are an underappreciated genius, if I do say so myself, and that I do, he remarked, placing the pages back in my hands. Well, thank you, I guess, I said. I knew I should have been ecstatic and joyful here. I mean, he decided not to kill me and take my soul to hell or whatever, but I was wrestling with another emotion here, one I did not truly comprehend at the time. Disbelief. I really couldn't believe that he thought it was this good, so when he immediately told me to write another one, I began to panic. If he liked this one so much, how would I top it? Would I be able to truly make it as good? What kind of bar had I set for myself? You need to calm yourself. I'm far less a critic than you think, and you are far more talented than you think. I can see inside you. I know what's there. Have faith in me. This part, he said with a smile. You have nothing to worry about. This seemed much easier said than done, especially when said by the devil himself. But I was honestly happy to oblige, for I'd also found myself a bit humbled and complimented. I mean, a timelessly old being just told me that I was a great author. I nodded in agreement and headed for a second cup of coffee. I said nothing to him because honestly, if he could read my thoughts, that seemed to be a bit redundant. I can't be certain, but I'm pretty sure he watched me with intensity and glee as I meandered about the kitchen and back into the living room, headed for my study down the hall. This time, the story came out about as fast as I could write it, if not faster. I wasn't sure if it was his influence or just an overabundance of inspiration that now sat relaxing in my living room. But the words flowed through my fingers like a raging torrent of thoughts solidified into ideas and plot. The characters I developed for the story were intelligent, tenacious, and intrinsically dynamic, which would not only fail to save them from their fates, but would also play into their downfall. Using the development of the story itself to believably trap these individuals in the most heinous situation, I scripted a design of the macabre and horrifying the likes I had never created before. I think I spent a page alone explaining the sensation of being skinned alive, having millions of nerves torn from fascia and tissue all at once, lighting up the pain sensors in the brain like a Christmas tree. Lovers saw those they cared for slowly taken apart before their eyes. Children witnessed the pleas from their parents for their offspring's release. Memories that would stay with them for the last few moments they would be alive, soon joining their kin in the same gruesome fashion. The being behind these terrible deeds was a monster of my own creation, a being once born as a man, but twisted and reformed under a perfect storm of disastrous events, leaving him a hollow shell of what he once was, always marking his victims in the same way, by eating their eyes while they're still alive. Not only did I absolutely adore how this piece came out, it left me room to write a follow-up story as well. Proud, I gathered the papers in a small stack and left the room once more. Once again, I found him sitting there on the couch of my living room, enjoying a cup of coffee that he had helped himself to. "Ah, I see you're finished with another masterpiece," he said, greedily snatching the leaves of paper from my hands. As I watched him pore over the text with a gleeful expression, I couldn't help but take notice of the program now being broadcast to the television. The devil was no longer watching Springer. He was watching the news. Now, I'm not sure if he was smiling at what I had written, or at the sudden realization that washed over me as I listened to the newscaster. I stood there, stunned and beside myself, at first unbelieving of what was being implied. A family found tortured to death, skinned and mutilated. The police say they've been looking for the culprit for weeks, as whomever had committed the crime had done so before. They reported they knew this because of the circumstances of the scene, and the deaths were always the same. Each victim always missing their eyes. As I looked over at the devil, taking note of the sinister grin once again as he stared up at me, I wondered one last time what he was truly happy about. But it never crossed my mind again. I made my decision right then and there, and I haven't lived a day of regret. Being an unknown, underappreciated author is thankless, but being the engineer of your death is an honor. Besides, I was happy to take him up on his offer. I mean, at least somebody likes my work, and maybe someday you'll get to experience it for yourself.
Well, if you never thought anyone could appreciate you for who you really are, give the devil some due. But you don't need to pay dues to slide back here again next weekend for an update you won't want to miss. And until then, remember to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.
Social media can be very unpredictable, especially regarding horror content. If this content gets removed, all new content will be simultaneously presented on various websites provided in the description to this video. Make sure to follow me in other digital spaces so that you never miss out on the terror. Also, if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment and hit the like button. It helps the channel a lot. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy what's here, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Writing is a dream of mine, and it's all of you that make that dream come true.